Hello all, welcome back to the Tech on Toast podcast. My name's Chris Fletcher and it's season 11. This season we have ZenZap as our sponsor for the Tech on Toast podcast. And if you're in hospitality, you know how chaotic managing a team can get. Don't worry, ZenZap is here to change that. Now, I've been using ZenZap for my own team at Tech on Toast, and honestly, I don't know how we've managed without it. It's a game changer for keeping everything organised. Instead of juggling endless email threads, WhatsApp groups, and random sticky notes around my office, we've got everything in one place. Conversations sorted by topic, tasks assigned and tracked without fuss, and files right at your fingertips when you need them. And for you guys in the restaurants, it's a no-brainer. The kitchen team can report supply issues in a dedicated chat. Managers can roll out new specials to the front of house instantly, and task assignments like prepping for a big event, all handled effortlessly. And my absolute favourite part, ZenZap keeps your work life separate from your personal life. No more work messages clogging up my WhatsApp, and no more 10 p.m. pings from my team ruining my downtime. It's intuitive, secure, and works on any device, so you're always connected but always in control. If you're ready to simplify your team's comms and get your evenings back, try ZenZap for free. No card needed, zenzap.co. Go check it out. Big thanks to ZenZap. Big thanks to all of you for coming to listen. Should we get on with it? I think so. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the next episode of the Tech on Toast podcast. And today I'm delighted to be joined. Let's say two old friends, shall we? I've known you for a while. I've known you digitally. Is that a word? Digitally for a while. But we've met a few times. I've met you more, yes. I think, Jess. But say, it's the people from Yumpingo. Jess, who are you? What do you do?
My name's Jessica Orton. I'm Director of Client Services at Yumpingo. So
very posh title.
Thank you. Anything once the customer is live sits with me and my team, right? So
you get the ugly bit, right?
The platform.
You get the hard work.
No, it is the hard work, but we definitely get
Darren's like, no, my bit's harder than yours.
We get all the glory, we get all the results, the good stuff.
And Darren, what do you do at Yumpingo?
So the official title is Commercial Director, but essentially I'm there to try and sell Yumpingo and kind of look after some customers, new prospects, partnerships, and then basically hand it over to Jess to deal with.
Chuck the ball over there. And you're also a famous musician?
I wouldn't say famous, but I do play music.
Tell us a little bit about that. I'm always interested and people want to know.
I wanted to be a rock star when I was a kid.
You've got the look.
Yeah, and I'm still trying, and but I can't be a rock star. So,
are you a guitar, or is it lead guitar rhythm?
Guitarist, rhythm, singer. So I just play local bars.
It's very cool.
And then do a day job.
And Jess, are you going to sing for us today?
Darren was also our VIP for our own Christmas party, the Yumpingo Christmas party.
I mean, that is ego there, bringing your own.
I brought my instrument.
And the lights and everything. It's great. Yeah. It's great.
And Jess, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about you. So, how did you get to this point? Have you always been in tech, or have you kind of done a dance across different things?
I've actually always been in account management and customer success. I would say through my core, that's my expertise.
I'd cut you in the middle.
Yeah, my expertise
I won't do that.
is what makes a really good, solid customer success or account management team or client services team. But I did a stint in recruitment many moons
Yes,
ago.
I remember you telling me this, yeah.
And I just loved speaking to technical people. I was headhunting predominantly for IT directors or
get him to give you a call.
Data analysts, yeah. And I just loved the lingo. Didn't have an interest in being able to necessarily do any coding or understand, the architecture piece. But
leave that to the weirdos. No offense, but I love those guys. And where are you from? You're not from down here, are you?
No, I'm from Shropshire. I'm originally from Staffordshire, but living in Shropshire.
Midlands girl.
Midlands girl.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lovely place. You're near Ironbridge, is that right?
I am not far from Ironbridge, about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I used to have a girlfriend in a place called Tetton Hall.
Yeah.
You know that in the Wolves?
I do know it.
Wolverhampton way.
I'm a big Wolves supporter. Can I say that?
Yeah, you can. I'll just edit it out, but you can say that. I'll just bin it. Actually, then they don't bother me. We're not worried about Wolves. They just do whatever they do. And Darren, what about you? Where are you from?
So originally I'm from Lancashire.
Yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, a bit of a Lancashire accent, but I've been living just outside of Manchester for the past 15 years.
Sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
And have you always been in this game? Have you been a sales chap after the rock star years?
Not always, no. So started as a rock star, obviously, in my bedroom. And then I fell into accountancy because my parents wanted me to do a proper job.
Okay.
So I did that for a few years and discovered that it wasn't really for me. And then sort of fell into hospitality and loved it, and I've never looked back.
And were you in in industry, as in like a weirdo like me working in it, or were you
I
supplying
have
it?
worked in bars.
You don't have to. I think everyone sometimes feel like I have to have worked in hospitality to sell hospitality tech. It helps, but I don't think it's a necessary.
Yeah, it isn't. But I think what I've really enjoyed is I moved into tech probably, I think it's about 2007, in hotels, and I just love hospitality. You know, everyone in hospitality just wants to make everyone, you know, leave happier, basically.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to have a good time.
I think that's Bill's mantra, right? Tom James told me everyone leaves happy. Is that what it is?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I love about it. And Jess will probably back me up on this. I'm not the most technical person. In fact, I'm the least technical person in Yumpingo. But I think, you know, we all use tech to help, you know, improve the experience, but it's more about the outcome and the people, really.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's an obsession sometimes with technicality and being, you know, programmer or understanding code and all that. Actually, the operators don't care.
No.
Without being rude, they kind of just want to know, this is our issue. Can you help us understand it and fix it? And what does it take to get there? And I'll pitch over to camera one, because I'm learning how to use this thing now. Sorry, guys, but I have to manually produce my own movies these days. And Jess, if you had to put Yumpingo in a bucket and give me your best pitch.
No pressure.
The
sales guys right there. And if anyone knows anything about me, what I don't do is anything short.
Right. Okay.
I'm
Neither do I, actually. Yeah.
But
Okay, I'm going back to you then, because literally you've been handed the. So tell us what Yumpingo is, I suppose, for anyone who doesn't know you, because you've been around a while, right?
We've been around 9 years.
That's a long. I mean, I say a while, but that's a long time in tech.
Yeah, we're quite old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A decade.
I'm certainly old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously people see us as, you know, feedback and, you know, guest experience. And of course, that's what we use. We collect a lot of feedback, a lot of data. But I think the fundamental difference, if we can put ourselves in a bucket, it's really just about helping operators identify very quickly, you know, what action they need to prioritize to improve and to be better at what they do. So for us, it's about continuous improvement. Yes, we use feedback as a source of truth, and we specialize in helping them engage with as many guests as possible. But that's just a natural thing. That's what we do, collect the data. But it's more about what you do with it and how do you drive. You know,
well, I think
change.
you know Vic Sir will tell you that data is everything. Since she sells it, or she helps people retain it, then sell it. And Jess, for you, it's interesting because you, as you quite rightly said, Darren's there at the front end selling the kit, and then you guys come in and operate it with your customers. You are getting to see firsthand what Darren just pitched, right?
Yeah.
You're getting to see these people find out what their issues are and then act upon them. And how is that changing over the years? Is that or alongside your tech? But do you find that operators are more in tune now, or kind of knowing what they want from? I know they know what they want. They want to fix a problem. But how fast are they getting there compared to where they would have, you know, maybe 3-4 years ago?
I think there has been a significant shift in the way that operators view feedback.
Yeah.
I think traditionally it was there as either it's something that you know the marketing team predominantly have to have, right?
Yeah.
To be able to respond to guest complaints or do that guest recovery. Excuse me. But I think now what operators we've been obviously banging the drum and trying to educate for some time, is that through those insights there are much more meaningful things to be learnt around the whole operations. Okay, so it's not just about recovering those that didn't have a great experience. Because they could just be one bad shift, right? You know, someone takes to.
I say that to my boss all the time. It's just this one. It's not a regular thing. I just move around the sites. It's not me.
It's hard to really get, you know, and I think operators are starting to understand now that when you're able to collect that feedback at a granular level and at scale, you're talking about insights now that actually sit at all layers, all levels of the business. So they're, you know, really driving strategic change across the business, from pricing, you know, and structures, or to opening new concepts, to scaling growth, to you know, repositioning the business from. Yeah,
because I think that's the thing that people don't often think about with feedback. My experience of feedback as an operator was that it was there to beat me, without being rude. It was like what we used to, God, for anyone who worked for Carluccio's in that period of time, something called a site contact form we were given. And if you got a site contact form in your email that morning, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get killed. And it was always seen as a negative thing, I used to find. And I think what's changing through people like you is that actually it's becoming more of a positive, as you mentioned, strategic thing, where people can use that data now to actually turn the Titanic round a little bit and just get away from the iceberg and kind of focus on the things that really matter. And I was going to ask you, Darren, is it when you're in pitches or when you're meeting people, has the remit changed from, so as you said, you're not just a feedback platform? Is that request changing in the fact that people want more broad product where they're looking at this end-to-end, end-to-end's a terrible explanation, but a broader product around helping them understand what's happening in their restaurants or
Yeah,
bars?
I mean, I think it's massively changed. I mean, I've been with Yumpingo 4 years. Before that, I worked with Yumpingo through Zonal, so I was aware of, the whole world of feedback. But I think the way that, we talk about feedback now is very different.
Yeah.
Previously, and we're still trying to educate people, really, because a lot of people see that online reviews are really important, and of course they are. It's the shop window. But they're so focused on managing the damage and responding to negative reviews, and that's the measure. That's the measure of the business. Well, I've responded to all of the negative reviews. I've responded to all the positive reviews.
Let's try not getting so many.
Yeah. And so what we're trying to do is kind of take a step back and actually think upstream and actually identify some of those root causes of those problems before people go online and leave the review. So I find a big part of what we do is just trying to get people to rethink what feedback can actually do for the business.
Yeah.
And once we've got over that hurdle, the conversation's just a lot smoother. Yeah.
And Jess, the people will say that the human element is affected potentially by putting tech in. I mean, I can't hear it anymore, but it's an enabler, right? And Darren just put it perfect there, that people can take move upstream, I think you called it.
Yeah.
You can look a bit further past just replying.
Yeah.
Because just replying is just enough, right? And who wants to work in a business that does just enough? That's not really great, is it? How are they using the data then to move forward? What kind of examples, I suppose, have you got where people have got some poor results potentially, or good results? And then how are they using that to drive traction? Or what particular features does Yumpingo have to help them do that?
It's really interesting. I think from a customer success perspective, there's two main... I'm trying to think of the right word really, but there's two key points where we really support our current clients. So one is adoption. Like any tech, you need to have a culture that embraces some element of change, right? I know we've had conversations around this, and we actually plugging in Yumpingo and getting that part, the tech, to work is really quick. Genuinely really simple.
The onboarding process, you mean, is
Yes. The adoption piece, in terms of just getting the right comms across the business and getting the right buy-in and sentiment, is ultimately what measures, how successful you'll have that tech will, the ROI essentially that tech will achieve.
You're just selling change, right? I say this to a lot of people now. It's not about selling tech anymore. It's selling, all the operators going to shut up, Chris. But it's selling tech. It's selling change in it, because as you said, it's not just about managing the minimal viable product here. It's about taking it, we have the ability now to take data and do more with it. We have the ability to take data and use it meaningfully, which is not easy, right? Because these people are busy. But I'm guessing you guys thought about that, that they're busy, and there's an easier way to do it.
Exactly that. So we kind of nailed down, what are the points, that make for a really successful adoption. And that it doesn't matter, what format you are, quick service, casual dining, fine dining, whatever that might look like, and in what method that you're collecting reviews does kind of change some of the success criteria. So we get that nailed pretty quickly, right? That's just getting the right people engaged and onboarded. And then we move very quickly into CAP, which is continuous actions process. So
you brought an abbreviation to the podcast.
We have.
We should be wearing caps today.
Very good. Yeah.
So we've coined this term in Yumpingo. It's essentially, if you think about Kaizen, as the Japanese methodology of continuous improvement, developed originally for manufacturing plants, right, where you've got 2 or 3 products, you've got pretty stable staff. It's not that complex. You're able to use feedback. Low level feedback, you don't need much of it to be able to drive that continuous change, but they proved that it's incredibly valuable, and I won't bore you on the stats, you can go and look into that. But what there isn't is the same model for hospitality. Hospitality is very different to manufacturing. It's incredibly complex. You've got a lot of staff changes.
Yes.
You've got hundreds of products potentially, if you've got a really vast menu, and so the principles stay the same, but you need a methodology just to mold around that. So we developed our own continuous actions process, because as many customers say to us, it's great data. Everybody's offering us data. Every tech provider out there has got data, but really, the magic isn't in what you do with that. And then you hit this kind of bandwidth issue with many operators. Naturally, they're running lean. So it's great, even when you know what to do with the data, how do we get to the point of knowing what to do with the data and then doing it.
Yeah, because it becomes almost consultative, right? I'm guessing in the sales process, you're almost doing that straight away, Darren. That you're looking at you're diagnosed. You're the doctor of feedback, right?
You're absolutely right.
So you're diagnosing their
I'm a
issues.
doctor. Yes, I'll go with that one.
I just thought I'd give you promotion. I
Not a rock star.
I felt like music didn't work for you. So let's go down medicine instead.
PhD in feedback.
Consultant Darren. I feel like next time you come, you should be in a white coat.
Absolutely. And a cat.
I think I definitely need a white coat. Anyway, but you're consulting, aren't you? At the start of their, I mean, they've got issues anyway, right? No one will come to you saying we've got no problems. We just fancy buying some tech.
Yeah.
Most people have got issues, right, that they need to fix, and it'll be a broad brush of issues rather than just something very singular. I think.
Yeah.
Normally,
Yeah.
and because the diagnosing part, I guess, is the skill you have to have, right? To be able to
it's a
help them
fundamental part
understand.
of what we need to do. You know, you need to understand what the problem is or what the problems are, and then we work really closely, don't we, Jess? Like, I'll identify the problems, I'll provide recommendations, and then the whole project is aligned to what they're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
And like you said before, it's not about giving them tech. Yes, we use tech. That's the kind of engine behind driving the data, but it's more about let's use that data and then apply it to the problem to solve the problem.
And how important are you, as in humans, as in the Yumpingo people? Because I think you're very personable people. You're very easy to approach.
Why, thank you.
And a well, in medicine, sir, I obviously have to address you correctly. But I think that actually, I said this about events the other day, right? With service, that events have to reflect the industry that we serve. You can't do dusty boardroom conference style events, because you can do them, but they're not really fun, right? And they don't really reflect what we do day to day in the industry. Is it the same for you guys when you're meeting people? And Jess was going to, I can't remember, last time we met, you were going to a board meeting with someone, a customer.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was.
In Manchester, it was Yo.
It was Yo, wasn't it? And you were going to sit in the boardroom and talk about, and I'm guessing when you get into that environment, how important it is that you guys really, really get I know this is an obvious question, but how important is it that you actually really reflect what they do and understand what they do? Because I'm guessing there's hospitality people generally quite quickly like to break down barriers and kind of feel like you're one of them. Do you feel like that when you're in a boardroom, when you're meeting these people?
100%. I mean, I think a lot of people are scared of tech. So when you kind of, they see you as a tech company, they're like, oh,
they're going to take our money.
I don't really know. I don't want to speak to someone that's trying to sell me tech. So yeah, I think breaking down the barriers is really important. I think people are, it's all about people at the end of the day. But also just really understanding what it is they're trying to achieve, and being genuine. It's actually not about selling a product. It's just about genuinely trying to help.
Yeah. I totally get it. And I first come across you guys, Oaxaca. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm talking a while back. Sorry, I'm old. But you were the guy. Do you still have the fact that you use the handhelds where you can look at feedback?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we started in that world. That was the kind of.
But you were the only one. Like you were that.
Yeah.
You were at the front there, weren't you? You were like, guys.
It's not. Believe it or not, 95% of our data comes from other methods.
Yeah.
So, but people see the device as that's the Yumpingo device.
That's exactly what I saw.
Yeah.
But that's what. No, but I and I was always interested, negatively or positively. Did you get a lot of? You said then most of it came from, I suppose, social sources or whatever. But how successful was that? Because we actually used to use them, right? So when I was
Devices are still, for the brands that use them, the data that's powered through that is the spine of their business. We'll take Hickories, right? Because that's, they're a growing brand, but they get 80%. They hear from about 80% of their guests through those devices. So
yeah,
I mean, they're doing stuff so real time. It's unbelievable.
Have you seen Cape Media? Have you heard of Cape Media?
Yes.
Cape Media are I've got these devices that sit on the table. And it reminded me of you guys a little bit. And I remember thinking, oh God, and I was sitting in Elan cafe where they just rolled out. I was thinking, really?
They're really smart, aren't they?
I just couldn't in my head figure out why that would. If you told me in isolation that would be a thing, but actually, when you sit down and use it and you understand the brand, because they're quite heavy on brand, right? Elan are very. Yeah. They want to put it in your face. It's pink. I mean, God, you couldn't. But it's just interesting, and the way they've used that digitally, I think, is really smart.
The tech is super smart, and we would talk to the guys at Cape Media, and
you can't help but talk to Gemma. She doesn't shut up. But...
Yeah, you haven't had those guys on here yet, have you?
No, she's coming. Okay, yeah.
Great. Well, I'll save that bit for her. But the stats that they've that they've been able to achieve from being able to free up more of staff's time, from doing that kind of.
I think it's a real signal to the market, if I'm honest. Yeah. I think it's a real signal because it's not QSR. Like, so in QSR, you kind of get that kind of behavior, right, where you can no humans interact. But this is table service, people interacting with tech on table, which is tech on table. There's another name. Interacting with tech at table side, which I think is. I know it's not new because we've had QR code, but that they are in America. It's quite common apparently. There's quite a lot of them out there doing that.
Yeah.
But you were going to say
what's fascinating about that though is traditionally there was a period obviously we went through lockdown and everybody getting tech on table, so that there wasn't any.
Definitely changed my name to tech on table. That's twice.
But I think so. It was seen as we don't want tech on the table because that means our servers aren't having creating those memorable moments with guests or having that interaction. And I think from what we saw it's turned into a pitch for Kate Media, but I guess what we're seeing now is.
I think there's relevance between where you guys started at, and you could argue that actually when you did that, was it 9 years ago when you had?
Yeah.
So you could argue that you were miles ahead.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, it's almost gone full circle. I'm not saying just through feedback, but in the way that I think customers are changing the way they behave. Not all of them. I'm not doing a sweeping statement here, but there's definitely a lean towards the change of the way people behave at table.
Yeah.
And I think that's super interesting because the market can't afford labour like it used to.
This is it. And if you can find a balance of being able to have the tech on table, but not lose any of that really. I mean, actually gives the opportunity for the servers to focus all of their efforts and time with the customers, talking about, allergen requirements or dietary requirements or making personal recommendations or doing those more,
There's a very old, I worked for Fridays very many years ago, and there was a very old adage in Fridays called follow the bubble. And the bubble, they used to call the bubble, would come to the front door. It's the pressure of the restaurant where it would sit. And the bubble would move into the front door, then it would move into the restaurant. Then the bubble would move in the kitchen because the orders come on. Then it moved back out again on the restaurant. And that was the way we taught our new staff how to understand where the pressure lay in the restaurant. And the bubble has been burst for 10 years because everyone's flooded and they can't cope. And they can't cope. Untrained staff, not enough of them, yada, yada, yada. And I think now, with the ability of tech, the bubble can come back, and people, like you just said then, if there's pressure in a certain area, a certain section of the restaurant, you can literally turn your attention back to the other bit because you can.
Yeah.
Because you can allow the tech to take care of that bit for a while. It doesn't mean you have to fire everyone, God forbid. None of that stuff. It just means that there's an option, and I think we're giving options with tech, right? Which is why I really liked where you guys were when you first came along. We found it like I was at Colleges at the time. I remember saying to Sarah Murray, who's the COO at Colleges, we were sitting in Oaxaca and we were going, we should do this. And then we did FlyPay. Do you remember FlyPay? I don't know if you remember that. So yeah, that one didn't work well. It didn't go so well. But it was interesting that we were starting to look then. That's 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
At how we deal with that table, and obviously the pandemic super speeded it. But it is interesting, and you guys also help drive loyalty, right, Darren? I'm guessing that when a customers come in the restaurant and they're giving fee, how are you kind of moving for the data you gather? How are you helping them prove loyalty? I'm asking an obvious question.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of ways. I mean, obviously we have integrations with loyalty platforms, and that works really, really well. Understanding the customer, understanding their sentiment. Are they a promoter? What favourite dishes do they? What are their favourite dishes and all that kind of stuff. We can track all of that, and that comes down to personalisation. So understanding the guest, and then sending automated comms that's very personalised, where you get
Can you do that as granular as what dish they have?
Dish, yeah. So that's really powerful. But I think there's quite a few examples where, particularly if someone's leaving feedback anonymously, in venue, we've got a very simple way that they can leave their email address and we can put that into a CRM system. So it's another way of, driving that loyalty enrollment as well, as part of that feedback process.
And Jess, are you seeing the repeat visits then when you're dealing on the customer success side? Are you seeing or are your customers telling you you're seeing customers returning based on the data they're gathering?
Yeah, it's really interesting where the customers that have gone full circle, right, and taking that data into the CRM and collecting it as part of like a profile.
Yeah.
So they're able to see those repeat visits and measure that and their spend as well.
So Chris likes mac cheese. He comes in, leaves a review.
Yeah.
We know Chris liked mac cheese on a Sunday the 3rd of Feb. Maybe he's going to come back next year on Sunday the 3rd. It's a bit weird if I did that. But just to have mac and cheese. But that kind of thing, right? You can really kind of hone in on it.
Yeah, exactly that. And I think what's really interesting is just touching on that point around knowing average spend by customer. Through some of our through our integrations as well, we're able to know average spend by server.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of shifting slightly here now, Chris, but like some of the, we talk about the consultative work and some of the challenges that we're helping operators navigate through is being able to understand where in their business do they focus their L&D time? And I think that's quite a hot topic that we're seeing at the moment because of the labour costs and, you know, and challenges there. Is like, instead of us just trying to train everybody everything all of the time, which is great, you know, but like actually if we were to just take a segment of our entire workforce and focus on 2 or 3 key things and upskill in that area, what do they look like? So the fact that we're able to get server level data and attribute things like NPS or guest sentiment to that server, along
cool.
with like average transaction, you can quite easily find out who your rock stars are, you know, and who are those that need that extra support.
I'm really laughing because we used to call them rock stars or lip syncers. In Hard Rock Cafe, that's what they were.
Yeah.
If you were a lip syncer, you were bottom of the table.
Yeah.
It's a bit brutal, but that was the way we measured it. But that's super interesting. So you can tailor training. So basically, if I ran my son works at Peter Pilgrim's, everybody bloody knows now, in Cardiff, and if his performance is poor, or not poor, maybe his spend is lower than Jessica's, and we want to improve him, then we can be really directly hyper focused.
You'll know
focused,
straight away where you know you've got that pool of servers who've got great hard skills, need some work on the softer skills. You know, essentially that's what you're doing. You're building those kind of 4 quartiles of high NPS, low average spend. You know, low NPS.
You've been in this for far too long.
So, but you know, on the flip side, because we collect that dish level feedback, really easy to do it on menu items. And there was a well-known coffee chain back end of last year launched their Christmas menu, which by the way goes through so much. There's so much that goes into, as every operator knows, creating those Christmas menus. They've already been through focus groups.
As an operator, I'd argue that marketing just make it up on the spot, but all my operator friends go, yes, 100%. You guys have got to see out the fence. It's so pathetic. Anyway, I'm joking. Yeah.
But yeah, you know, a great example. It'd already been through all the focus groups. They knew it was going to be a really, really hit drink.
Yeah.
They knew that. It was, you know, everything had led to that moment, and they were able to see within days a specific group of locations that were just not executing that drink properly. Now you do that across the Christmas period.
Yeah. No,
Dangerous,
it's huge.
You know, that's the revenue impact is huge.
It's super interesting, right? Because Darren, I'm going to talk to you now about a story from an Italian chain. So, which I saw on social media, and I thought that's interesting.
Where did that come from?
I'm going to tell it, and because we share it now. But I don't know how you've. Maybe I didn't tell you, Jess. Okay, fine. I need to shut my mouth more. But interestingly, when I was at college, we were all called to London to bring our lasagnas. This is relevant because Yumpingo has something. You can explain the next bit, Darren. So we were called to London to kind of bring our lasagnas and kind of lay them all out on a table. It was ridiculous. I mean, literally, I think there was 90 GMs at that point, and the area manager was like, "You want them to bring their lasagnas to London?" They're like, "Yeah, okay." So Sarah made us all fly them down, whatever. So various, and you can imagine, we made it fresh every day. So we made lasagna fresh every day, red wine, all the mixture went in, and there were varying degrees of spec, right? And also we kind of encouraged that because this lasagna is fresh, it's authentic, right? So it's meant to be different, but there were really varying issues on spec. So we brought them all to London and then I'm going back 10 years ago here now. So Sarah's looking them all laid out on a table in the boardroom in Garrick Street, and she's like, this is a joke, you're embarrassed. You know, literally we got beaten up. It could have done an email, but she decided to do it face to face. But the point was that it highlighted a bit like your coffee story there, an issue across the whole estate that probably cost us about 10 grand to find out, probably plus all the customer complaints that have come in previously. And because Carluccio's was a very well followed brand, so people would travel from, if you went to Cardiff and you were in Bristol, you'd go and Carluccio, like McDonald's. God, not like McDonald's, but do you know what I mean? You'd expect the same thing. So and people were very disappointed and very vocal. One of the best things we had was a vocal community. So they would tell it, and worst, they would tell us when something wasn't right. So we found out in a very expensive way that we were getting spec wrong. Now, when Yumpingo get involved, or when we convert that into a digital era, tell us about how you could just take that situation and super speed what I had to spend 10 grand on.
For a start, you don't need to get flights to wherever. But yeah, no,
Edinburgh to Garrick.
Yeah,
Edinburgh to Heathrow.
I think you know the fundamental thing is, because we collect live feedback on every dish across all site shifts, you know, everywhere. What you've got is that information immediately. So, you know, lunch service today, you would easily identify, and I'm talking really easily, identify which dish, which site is not hitting the mark.
Yeah.
And it's like very much a traffic light system. So you kind of know, you know, lasagna in Cardiff, red warning. You know,
I mean, it was my
there's an
site,
issue.
I'll
There's
take
an
that.
issue with taste, and so you kind of get that league table, very very clear league table that, you know, these sites are actually executing perfectly, great, but actually these sites aren't, and you can do that instantly live in service.
I think it's just a really good example of how feedback isn't just used in that one-dimensional way that you were talking about at the start, where it's like, oh, we got a 2-star review, let's reply, send the standard reply. I mean, AI reply now, is it? I don't know. Is that right? Yeah. So send the AI reply. Nothing wrong with the AI. Don't kick off on me. But send the AI reply, kind of deal with them, done.
Yeah.
But I think now it shows that there's so many parameters to dealing with feedback in the different ways you can then distribute across your business and deal with those. Just in 2 examples there, coffee and lasagna, you've got a spec issue and an execution issue, which both are leading to lost revenue, right? Which right now is unacceptable.
Yeah, 100%. So it means you can act quickly, but it's not just on the menu. You know, it's across everything. We talked about it, but, you know, server, you know, steps of service or upsells, you know, are they consistently being delivered at every site, across every shift, across every server? So you can, you know, the whole rule applies across the whole operation, menu and service.
And Jess, you're dealing with these lovely people. It's not just you, is it? I'm sure you've got some people.
I have got a team, yeah.
And does that reflect then in when you're talking to, in terms of those? I mean, you gave an example really clearly there. Those examples, I presume, are common.
Yeah, I have to say, like, the ones that we've talked about are really common.
Especially my lasagna one, it's the best.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
Yeah. He's taken it back. So, but yeah, no, they are really common, and they're seen very, very quickly as well. And actually, some of the feedback from, let me be really candid, you know, if there's something really, I always say there's something really disastrously wrong with your operation, you will know about it without Yumpingo, right? It'll be plastered all over your socials, or your team are hearing about it day in, day out, or they're feeling the pain of it.
Yeah.
So there's an element of Yumpingo that will, of course, tell you the weight or the gravitas of, like, those disastrous things that are happening. You know, how is that having the impact? But a lot of, you know, a huge proportion of the data that we capture is from those customers that had a good but not great experience. And we often talk about those as the silent majority.
Yeah.
They're not the people that take to socials.
Yeah, it's easy to lose a customer, very hard to win one.
Yeah, and those customers are going, it was okay, but if there was one thing, you know, so they're not rushing out saying we need to come back next week and bring all the family and friends. And so we're really focused on that percentage, or that group of customers as well, that you almost hit the mark. But a lot of the time when we speak to operators and we say, look, you know, there's a particular item on your menu, or there's a particular operational process that's not up to where it needs to be, you know, it's not up to standard. So honestly, a lot of them say, honestly, Jess, we sat in this boardroom 12 months ago and we all discussed it. And we went round and round the houses, 2 people disagreed, and we moved on. We've got other things to get on with.
Yeah.
And the issue stayed. And the problem you've got there is that you're just living on broken processes.
Yeah, that's super interesting, because that is the reality, I think, of a customer-facing business. And, you know, unlike a factory where you have very strict processes that happen every day, we wish hospitality was like a car factory, because you can be very predictable in what you produce. But it's also part of the appeal to it that it's not predictable, and actually that's the appeal to people who work in it as well, because it is a bit crazy and a bit out there. And I think those little problems, I love the fact that you talk about the 1%, because those small bits that we don't normally focus on, or an individual in a site, a single site will go, I know that's an issue, I've told head office being their area manager, poor thing, but you know, I know that one issue appears here, and because they're not speaking to GM 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're probably having the same problem, but no, people just don't know. And what you don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
So that's where I think you have to have this level of measure with tech. You have to be able to see that there's multiple problems happening at the same time in different places. But it may just be that really jardinera balls. Here's another one for you. Jardinera balls, 6 of them, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, on a portion on a jardinera. They're spinach balls on a jardinera in Carluccio's. And the chefs started realizing if they took one off each dish, because it was only a garnish, if you took it off each dish, they were saving quite a lot of money on the stock, and we were really heavy on 1.2 theoretical, all this kind of stuff. So we were really brutal on how they kind of control the stock. So they just found a way of taking out a little bit of food that would control, and we didn't know about that anyway, because visually you wouldn't really spot it unless you were physically going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which we did as area managers. But yeah, the GMs, God bless them, probably weren't doing that as much as we were, because they're busy doing other stuff. So that problem appeared again later on through guest feedback. So we were told, oh, we've noticed you start doing 5 rather than 6. We're like, no, we do 6 still. No, you do 5. And we're like, so we went to 8 different locations, all doing 5, because all the chefs went to the head chef meeting and went, hey, mate, if you take one of these balls off, you save 38p a dish.
That is an example there of like actually when a lot of I was going to kind of say like some of the basics is us obviously flagging, you know, if there was 3 things that you needed to fix across your estate or in this site or in this region, what should those be? You know, if you put your focuses there, you're going to drive the greatest increase in guest sentiment. But a lot of the stuff that we're doing really at a head office level strategically is helping them to do to be confident in the decisions that they're going to make and go through with that change. Kind of comes back to CAP, right?
Yeah.
So what do you know from what the data's telling you? You know, how do you then plan some change? Could be something really small. And then we've got all the kind of workbooks or conversations to do that with the operators, and then testing it out, right? So go and do it in one location.
It must be so cool to see when you have that data that they've taken from your product into market, and then you've spotted that problem, and they've taken away the action plan project, and then gone and tested, and you see the result. That must be pretty cool.
Got loads of examples of it. I mean, one operator on the back end of last year, I won't mention any names, but they had around 40% of all of their detractors were saying that food was just too slow. And they kind of knew it had been happening, you know, when it's happening at that scale, you do already know about it. But when we unpacked it, it was a lot about actually people at the table, guests getting their mains at different times and the kitchen wait times. And it felt like this huge problem. But actually, when we broke it down in CAP, within 3 weeks, we went, some of them were really small configurations that they made in the back of house tech, you know, on tickets, just to make the tickets clearer for the kitchen.
It's super cool, isn't it? Because you can just get down granular. You can just get into these nitty gritty.
It really didn't take.
And sometimes it's just a little tweak, yeah. It's like trying to tune your guitar, Darren.
Yeah, it's a simple fix.
Sometimes
just tune up.
Sometimes it's just getting.
Do you know what? It's a really good analogy. That you know,
it
it's about
we
tuning,
talked about that.
tuning up.
Yeah. No, I genuinely believe it. I was trying to think of a good. I just made it up on the spot, but trying to think of a good
I'll steal
example.
that one.
Yeah. That's on LinkedIn tomorrow.
It's interesting you said that, because we had talked about like a buzzword for like Yumpingo. You know, if you could name Yumpingo in one word, you know, we were kind of thinking, if you think Volvo, you think safety, right?
Yeah.
Box. We were like, it's really hard to describe Yumpingo in one word, and the one word we did come up with tuning.
Yeah.
I love that, and I think tuning. It's like honing your craft, right?
Yeah.
So my daughter is self-taught piano player, and she never had a lesson or anything. Just sits upstairs. She's got this lovely white piano in her room. Barely plays it, I don't think. But anyway, the other night I was walking past and heard her playing "When We Were Young" by Adele, but start to finish, right? And I was listening to her, and I was like, she doesn't sing, or she does it quietly. But I was just listening to her. I said to Kerry, how has she done that? And that's just honing your craft, right? She's just sat there. Practice on her own quietly, and then got there. And I think it's the same for operators. The best operators in the business repeat. Be obsessive with being good. But you cannot do that. I believe now it's very hard to do that like we used to do it.
Yeah.
It took a lot of legwork. I mean, I was talking the other day about training. We used to take 12 weeks. I was trained for 12 weeks prior to working at college years. They can't afford 12 weeks for a manager to be off site, and then I'd come in and spend 2 weeks shadowing, 14 weeks investment in me, and I could quit on the 15th week, you know. So, and I just don't think that's there anymore. So obviously there's a bit of a lack in knowledge, training, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't mean everyone's bad. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying it's just different. And I think that's where tech plays its part, where they need people like you to be able to come in and say, look, we get it. These things happen. But if you diagnose it this way and do this like your peers have done, here's brand A, B, C that have done what we've told them to do or what we've shown them, then you get results. So yeah, super interesting. And I need to ask you, before I let go, some technicality stuff, Darren. So I'm guessing you integrate into a lot of different platforms.
Yeah, we do.
Right, so partnerships, because if anyone's listening in and thinking, okay, I need these two in my life, they sound quite clever. So you work with the majority of the EPOS guys, and what do you need to plug into, I suppose, is the better question.
Yeah, I mean, EPOS, CRM, loyalty, order and pay, Wi-Fi, bookings hotel systems, PMS, you know, so it's endless really. And we have a lot of existing integrations, but recently we signed up a brand in Scotland, and they had some EPOS system that we'd never really heard of.
I was going to say something very racist, so I won't do it.
We'd never heard of the EPOS system. However, you know, we've been working with that EPOS provider, and within, 3 weeks? Integration done. I think they go live next week, actually. So, you know,
to you.
Yeah, over to you. But no, that so we're driven by customer demand. You know, it depends on what the tech stack is. We'll have a look at the tech stack as part of this, doctor's diagnosis.
That's right. I can literally see the next LinkedIn with a little clipboard in his white jacket.
And a guitar, tuning my guitar. But yeah, no, I think that's it's part of what we do. It's look at the tech stack. How can we plug into their tech stack to drive volume, data, and just make their life a bit easier.
And Jess, I'm interested to know. Just a general question about hospitality. How do you feel it is at the moment? Is there, if you could take a pulse, being the doctors that you are? See what I'm doing here? I'm running this all the way through now.
It's a good question, and I think I probably am going to regurgitate potentially what
that's fine.
Others have said on here. I'm not sure.
It's my life on the podcast.
I definitely see a polarization in the sense of we're speaking to operators that are saying they have got a high number of sites that are not profitable, and they're coming up against challenges, and some of that is just the business has gone through a lot of change. Whether that be at senior management, whether that be trying to reposition themselves in the market, perhaps what they had is kind of a dying thing, and they've got to work out how to really bring the theatre and the memorable, so that's one side.
Yeah, nobody be an operator. It's hard. No, it's hard though, isn't it? Because you are right, because things change, and I built a bloody escape room in my last job in one of my restaurants because it wasn't performing. So it just shows how far people will go to kind of make things work, and it did work actually. But I think that what you're talking about is that kind of there's a movement, right? And what makes me laugh at hospitality, people like me will go on stage or on a stupid podcast, and it's not stupid, and talk about stuff and say, but it's actually evergreen. These problems, I know it's different because the world is different right now. It's in a very weird place globally, but I think the industry has always had issues. It's always been we seem to feel it first, because we're customer facing, right? We get the impact when times are hard, and I think but I do think there's a shift in experiential dining, like that middle market. I don't know. I don't want to name brands because people hate being called the middle, but you know what I'm talking about. These casual dining chains that might represent families, those kind of people. It gets squeezed, right? Because people think, why would I spend 50 quid on that, where I can go to McDonald's for the kids for like 20 quid, for instance, or let's go up to Hawksmoor, or whatever. We'll do something a bit different. I think it's really hard for that middle market, which I spent most of my career in, because you get squeezed straight away and you feel it really quick. What do you think, Darren? Are you seeing, do you see when because you're obviously on the end of where people have got budget to spend or don't have budget to spend but are willing to listen to you in your diagnosis? Are you seeing people want more bang for their buck? Is it budgets tight? I'm interested because I think it's a market signal.
Budgets are very tight. It's,
which is obvious, right?
I've been doing sales for 15 years and I've never known it so
really
so challenging.
Challenging in the sense that people are almost wanting it but can't do it.
Yeah, they really want it. It's not about the capabilities. It's
just not about that lack. It's not about what Jeff's saying, where about adoption. Not adoption, I suppose you mean once you've already bought it, but that need for it. They understand that, but it's getting it done.
It's getting it done. It's budgets. It's obviously with labour going up in April, everyone's just like panicking about are they going to be in business in the next few months? So it just slows the whole process down. Its decisions are a bit slower. That said, we've done some great work over the last 12 months.
Got your Scottish friend?
Yeah, Scottish. The business is out there. We've done it's quite a lot in the sort of cafe space, QSR space, where that's a little bit more buoyant, and also overseas as well. So we're doing quite a bit in Australia.
Obviously,
obviously, why not?
Jess is like, I'll go.
Although she hates me because of the time difference.
Yeah.
Not another 6 a.m. call.
Yeah, I have an Australian partner, Red Cat. If you're listening, please just stay up a little bit later for me or something. So we'll go where there's an opportunity, obviously. But I think the business is there. People want to do, if you don't, if you do the same, you get the same. So we're in an era where you've got to change. You've got to do things differently to survive. I do think that April is enforce that on people almost. You kind of got you're in that point now where you're just thinking, everyone's sick of hearing about April, I think, but I think most people have made their changes or are making their changes now. Anyway, that's our depression bit done. We won't talk about that anymore. What about the future?
I was just going to say, just on the flip side of that though, we talked about brands there that are trying to really navigate challenges, but we've got operators that have already built something extremely successful, and they're using Yumpingo. We don't, yes, you can continue to collect feedback in the standard or traditional sense as we talk about it, but they're doing qualitative surveys and they're doing pulse research to really understand, okay, we've created this amazing site.
And they do all that through you guys.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's highly profitable location. How do we rinse and repeat confidently? How do we really, like,
Not sure rinse is the right word. Replicate, maybe.
But how do we scale this at speed and get it right? With confidence every time.
I used to talk about the success model all the time when I was in my proper job, and we used to, because you'd find a site like Manchester, for instance, Piccadilly and Carluccio's printed money, but we could not in any station in the country get the same. I don't know what it was. We just don't know. We never found out what it was.
Well, we would tell you.
Do you know what it was? We were the HGEM. I think.
You can't say
sorry, HGEM. No, but we found out it was we used to do a pound coffee in the morning, which sounds obvious, but we did it in every location. But particularly the value added bit in Manchester was what was driving it. And my good old friend Clive Watkins, he spent his life dealing those bloody pound coffees. But we just didn't know that, we knew, in your gut, a lot of operators work on gut, right? And have done for a long time and probably still do, even with your data, right? They're probably still sitting there going, really? I think it's this. And I imagine they're probably not always right now, right? Because that it would prove you wrong a lot of the time. But I think that if we had that information back then, we would have been able to replicate that success model, which I think you're right, Jess, because there's so much time and wasted. I mean, there's potentially company changing results if you don't get a new site right. And that's why you see the growth slow down a little bit, because people are frightened, right? Why would you open in a B location when you almost want guaranteed results, right? I mean, no matter what we do here, as long as the GM's right, we'll make money. And that's really difficult to predict. But with people like you, I suppose it helps. What does the future look like? We have to do this question. This is what we do. It's like a podcast. Everyone asks at the end, what is the future? Darren, when are you going on tour?
I'll be going on tour. I'll be with my guitar. No, I think AI, everyone's talking about AI.
I didn't ask about AI. I'm trying not to do it because I feel like...
it's kind of that subject that everyone's talking about. I mean, people are dabbling in AI for all sorts of things. I think it'll only get bigger. People will use it for a lot of like spotting trends and kind of understanding guest preferences, just getting a bit more automation around that. And we are using AI quite a bit.
You've probably been using it for a while, though, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and I think that's only going to sort of evolve. I think for me, the future is about that personalisation. Understanding the guest, using tech to support that. I still think in hospitality, tech shouldn't be like the only thing. It should be about hospitality. Tech is very much like a sous chef. It's not there to take over. It's there to sort of
offended half of the chef population.
It's there to support. Do you know what I mean? It's there to.
My sous chefs never came in, mate. So. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
you're saying it's an enabler.
It's an enabler. It's not there to take over and do everything. Yeah,
just make me laugh because literally all I had just left and all the sous chefs had to do the job. But what about you, Jess? What about because obviously you're on the other end of the spectrum with this. But what do you think about the future for not just for Yumpingo but in general?
I think I was here at the service event. Was that a week ago?
Yeah. Give myself a there you go.
Brilliant event, well done. Yeah,
it was stressful, but yeah.
But Molly's are a customer of Yumpingo's, and
I did not know that. I was on the phone to Miss Parr this morning.
Oh yeah, she's been busy. I'm loving all the content coming from Trudy. But I think there's something. Look, whilst predominantly we talk a lot about tech and operational processes and issues. I think it's a bit cheesy, but it always comes back to people.
Yep.
And I think the bit that I'm really starting to I guess the CS team are really starting to support customers with is what we talked about earlier, like the change management and adoption and empowering people.
Yeah, you're obsessed with that. I think it's a really good place to be.
I think if you could. The CEO could buy the best piece of tech in the world. If it doesn't land right with the front of house and the back of house, it's just always going to have that disconnect. I think it's really important that the people right at the front of the business understand how that tech enables them as well.
Yeah,
it isn't just something that they have to do because head office say, it's great for us, and I think that's a lot of what I do is understand. Yumpingo is actually we spent a lot of time developing the platform specifically for GMs to really empower them, right? To tell, dashboard full of compliments for the teams, a real-time check on do shift handovers.
Oh, so you do like a pre-shift notes or whatever,
Yeah, there's 3 things you need to focus on this week. What should it be? Create actions and follow up and send those to the back of house team. Someone look at the roast chicken this week because on Sunday it was super dry, and then you're empowering GMs and and head chefs to figure out, you know, the problems at their own site, not waiting for that to kind of trickle down.
Yeah, and that ownership piece is huge, right? And it always has been. And the best brands I ever worked for were they let me be me and let me manage my site to my ability rather than push down. Because I just don't think there's the ability to do that anymore because there's not enough people to do it. But look, super interesting, you two. Lovely to have you on. We'll have to we need to do some kind of demo though for the public. To let them see, because it's all very well talking about it. It'd be great to see you guys on YouTube or something. Yeah. You can bring your guitar. I'll need to let that go.
No, that'd be great. That'd be great.
But it'd be great to kind of do a bit of a showcase around what you guys do, because I think it's because sometimes if people are listening in, they're like, "That sounds really, let me see it in progress," right?
Hey, if there's another service, because I'm itching for 2 or 3, 4 a year.
I think we're going to do 2 definitely. Maybe summer, but it was tight. We'll see.
It is tight.
But we're definitely going to do 2, and we're going to go. We're going to Europe to do 1 as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds really good.
So that's a real ballsy move, but we'll go for that.
Okay,
See what happens. I haven't got anywhere doing anything small, so let's just keep doing big and see what happens. But yeah, so I think we're going to go to Amsterdam. I'm being told. So that's pretty cool. So maybe early next year. But and then Service 26 is already live on the website. Go check it out. Yeah, it's non-stop. Look, if people want to reach out, not about me, it's about you. So if people want to reach out to you two and find out more about Yumpingo, Jess, are we allowed to stalk you on LinkedIn?
You can stalk me on LinkedIn. It's Jess@yumpingo.com and it's Darren@yumpingo.com.
Oh, there you go. Did yours for you.
Pretty easy, right?
Just look for if you need to find Darren, just look for the lasagna story and like it. You'll see it pop up.
Or me playing guitar.
Yeah.
Please like
Actually,
it.
you did play.
There's a couple there. Yeah.
I have interest. Like favorite band. Like who do you aspire?
I mean, I grew up listening to Elvis and the Beatles.
Really?
So
You're a good
parents' music was a big.
So I'm a Scouser originally, right?
Yeah,
so Beatles are my thing.
Yeah.
My mum crept out very quickly. Mum crept out of her bedroom when she was about 14, 15 to go and watch the Beatles in Heswall Hall, which is where I'm from, which is a small village in the Wirral. And she went to watch them at Heswall Hall. That's her claim to fame.
Yeah.
And Mike McCartney. Oh God, this is really convoluted now. Paul McCartney's brother Mike, his daughter Abby McCartney went to school with me. There you go.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how old I am. All right, guys.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you both.
Thank you.
Have a go on the slide. See you later.
Thanks, Chris.
Bye.